Welcome to Destination Linux, the aperture science testing facility of open source mayhem, where every commit is a portal gun shot straight into the heart of proprietary nonsense, straight out of Portal. I'm your GLaDOS this week, Jill, running the show with my deliciously sarcastic core and a vintage PC chamber full of neurotoxin-free surprises. And one of these, too. Ryan is our shell, silent but deadly cybersecurity test subject, solving Linux puzzles faster than he can dodge turrets. Matt, host of Linux Out Loud, is our Wheatley, hyperactive gaming and hardware gremlin, smashing benchmarks with charm while accidentally overclocking the entire facility. This week's test chambers were dissecting Kaspersky on Linux. Do we even need it? Decoding a very frustrated listener's feedback. Spoiler, it's definitely about Ryan.
Whoa, how do you know? It could be you, Jill. It could be Matt. That's why we have Matt on here. You don't know.
Yeah. Checking the latest Steam survey numbers to see how big Linux gaming really is now that the Steam Deck dust has settled is one of our awesome topics. Matt brought us a special pick as well. It's a secret. Plus our software pick and a few extra neurotoxin-laced surprises. So grab your portal gun, sync your repos, and remember, in open source, the cake is real, and it runs natively. This was a triumph. This is Destination Linux.
All right. So this week, Jill, as you mentioned, someone was very disappointed in you, Jill. And listen, normally I would just cut this out, but I feel like people need to know when, people are frustrated. We need to share the good emails and the bad emails. So let's see who they're frustrated at. It's either Jill or Matt. Definitely not me. They go on to say, first of all, before we even get into that, Matt, welcome.
Welcome back.
For those who don't know, Matt is a longtime friend of the show. And I mean, like, back to the roots. Like, before I think I was even on a show, I knew Matt, maybe, or just when I joined. Like, you were one of the first people in Linux that I talked to. Yeah. So,
2017 for you?
Something like that. Yeah. Somewhere. It's been a minute.
Ryan, you're getting old and crusty, dude.
Dude, I was old and crusty in 2017. Now I just belong in a museum. But look, thank you for coming on the show. If you don't know, Matt is a part of the Linux Out Loud crew, which is a fantastic podcast that Wendy's also a part of, and Nate. So we're rotating through their whole crew of hosts here. And Matt was gracious enough before work and with his incredibly busy schedule to come on here and host with us. And what I love about Matt is he can get a little spicy, and we have a spicy show today. It's a very spicy. So we need you, Matt, more than ever here, I think, for this one.
So Ryan, I just want to put into context, this is probably going to be about you anyway, because it's usually you causing the problems. I'm a guest. I wasn't even expected to be on here. So you can't blame me.
There you go.
Well, listen, you never know. Let's see. So
if this was Linux Out Loud, we could blame me.
Well, maybe they're complaining to us about it. Let's get into it and find out. They said, listening to the latest DL podcast, I have to say I'm extremely disappointed in Matt and Jill. Look, both of you are mentioned there in one run. That's amazing. So I told you guys.
It says Ryan. It says Ryan.
Oh, it does. Oh, okay. Yes. I need my glasses. Sometimes I miss that. Yeah. Real shocker, people. Like you're taking a real leap there, blaming me for something. Let me tell you, real brave email. Really disappointed in Ryan's EU censorship comment. To that, I can only say, please read more independent news agencies. Well, I'm going to ask you to buy a mirror later on. But let's continue with your email here. You say, I'm trying to come up with the reason for those censorship claims, but I find it hard. Ryan, do you think there's censorship in EU because your social media posts can be deleted if they spread false news? ? Yes, that would literally be censorship. So yes, yes. Who determines something is false news? That's the question that people don't ask. And by the way, I'm playing with this email, Sergio. Very, and I hope that's how you pronounce the name, but very well written email. Sorry you got upset. But I think as we go through this, you're going to kind of see that there's a lot of things that you may have misinterpreted. Plus, I did verify that I literally said in that little tiny snippet statement, hey, news gets stuff wrong a lot, though. These are some of the things I heard. If you're in the EU where we have a lot of listeners, please send in your comments. So I feel like, you know, I had a little clause there, a little asterisk, but nobody listens, Jill. Nobody cares. They want to get disappointed in me. First of all, I don't like how they started off with, I'm extremely disappointed. What are you, my mom? Like, what is that? I've said way worse things that you should be disappointed in than that. All right. So yes, I do believe that would be censorship if you remove social media posts that you claim are false news, because again, who gets to decide what's false news? There are many times in history, if you read a history book and go back, there are many times where people had very unpopular opinions and they changed the world with those unpopular opinions. A lot of opinions that a lot of people would have said with full passion. They would have probably died behind the statements that they believed that person was wrong, and that person ended up being right and changed the world. So who decides what's real and fake? That's the first thing that you need to understand. Also, remember that we don't get into politics specifics on this show. But in general, if your political party and their political ideals are the most popular at that time, we'll call this, they're holding the gun. They have all the power. But what happens with these governments and free societies is a new vote happens, and sometimes that regime changes. And now the people who you were censoring want to censor you. And so the game continues. And then the more further they can take these things as whatever party's in place, then the next party comes in and they can go up to that line too and maybe stretch it even further. Because now we have politics in the US, at least, at which name calling's okay. I remember a time when presidents would never name call, as an example, because that was not presidential. Well, we're past that. Now we can have, you know, all of the name calling and everything we want everywhere. So my point is, as these lines move and we accept them, then the next one comes in. And while it may benefit you today, you like what's being censored. Tomorrow, the people who are in power may not like what you have to say and start censoring you. So it's a very slippery slope. And I find that, you know, what you're calling, well, let's continue with your email. You said, I find that entirely normal, talking about the censorship of social media, of false news, and it's called content moderation. If I write false news about you, post it on a website that looks like a news website, and those news get shared a lot on social media, would you like them to be removed? Well, if you spread false information about me in your example, I have legal recourse to file a lawsuit on defamation and sue you. So there are legal recourses for such things, just like if you were to take photos that I didn't give permission to and other things. There are legalities that say you can't have death threats. You can't do certain things. And is that a form of censorship? It is, but it's one that's kind of been accepted on a global basis, I think for most normal countries for hundreds of years, that you can't walk into a place and threaten someone and expect that nothing's going to happen to it. So those were just simply extended online. Do I think there can be more rules around things? Yeah. I mean, when you look at swatting and other stuff and new things that have come around, they're equally dangerous. They're very serious things that are happening to people that you need some regulations potentially about. But we're discussing false news in your example here. Let's go on. You say, well, in the EU, that is possible. You call it censorship and lack of free speech. I call it common sense. Okay, so it is censorship then. I thought we decided that it wasn't censorship and you're just giving a friendlier name of like, whatever. Anyways, they go on. Moreover, here we have, in my opinion, the best privacy laws. Okay, So I think we have common ground here. I would never argue that the US has good privacy laws, or for the most part, any relevant privacy laws. California and Texas, I think, are the only ones that have any privacy laws. Maybe there's a couple other states, but it's almost non-existent. So I would not argue in any form or fashion that the US has better privacy laws. I don't know, Jill, do you disagree with anything I've said so far?
No, you're right on.
They go on to say, using an EU-based cloud storage, I'm guaranteed that no state will have access to my data. No, you're not. But funny that you think that, because I use an encrypted cloud storage, and no law has passed in the EU that forces encryption backdoors, because EU is still democracy and people can contact the representatives and sway to vote him accordingly. Okay, so awesome that you use encryption. Do agree that protects you a lot. And there's just a couple things that you need to understand with the EU specifically. One thing you probably want to research is called Five Eyes. This may help you understand that the little privacy we think we have isn't so private. So there are a lot of intelligence agencies across countries, including the UK, US. There's a whole load of them that have all agreed to basically share all their data that they have on their citizens and things like that. But go look it up for yourself. Do your own research, since you apparently have the totally unbiased news agencies that you found, which I'd love to have a list of them, because I really haven't found one. But go find those, research that. Tell me what you think of that. In addition, when you think of things like Pegasus, if you truly believe that, like, Pegasus is a tool, if you do some research on that you'll find can literally send a text message to any phone. You don't even have to open it and gain complete access into your device. So while your encryption helps from the everyday hackers, and I encourage it, and it's very private, and EU has better privacy laws, I wouldn't be so certain that your data is super safe. So there you go. Also, I understand there are many challenges that are being faced right now as you talk about the legislation, which I think is a very good point that you make. You talk about the legislation and the fact that people can reach out to their local legislation because you're still a democracy. But I have seen multiple news articles from very reputable sites that I trust, such as the EFF, such as Tuda themselves, the privacy email company, such as Proton, that's based in Switzerland. So one of the companies we're talking about, that are very, very worried about the laws that keep coming across the desks there for several countries. So I think that you have to be very careful if you're a citizen in the EU, that yes, you have some of the, compared to the US, way better privacy rights, but there's a lot of people working to get rid of those. And so definitely would encourage those in the EU to be very active in this, because it's a slippery slope. And when you talk about censorship and things, one of the things that will happen as you encourage more censorship is they're going to say, well, let's look into your files to see if you've ever said anything that is potentially offensive, or you've done anything wrong. And that's the only way we can stop the bad ones, because they're going to bring it back to how do we protect the kids or something along those lines. So again, we're in agreement, common ground. EU has at the moment far better privacy rights. My comment was, are we still sure that's going to be there? When we were talking about places, somebody, I don't remember who it was, mentioned about it being safer in the EU. And I'm like, I'm not so sure that's still the case. And I stand behind that. Based on the facts that I'm seeing, I'm not sure that's going to be the case if people don't start pushing back and changing the narrative there. You said on another train of thought, in the EU, we have recognized that false news can do a lot of damage. There are state actors, see Russia, that is using them to push their agenda across not only EU, but also US. In the US, it seems to be more successful than EU for the time being. I'm glad you're very patriotic. But again, I would challenge that. There's something called Brexit, which I think would be one of the most successful campaigns in utilizing social media and false news ever pulled on a population. So I would say we're all probably equally susceptible. to all of this stuff, but I agree 100% with your premise. There are a lot of countries that are focused on spreading false narratives. They even have upvote farms that they post something. They're meant to agitate, enrage, or even make you believe that your beliefs are shared by the vast majority of people. That's why we have, even in elections and things, so many people are like, yeah, everyone's going to vote for blah, 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 because they're so convinced in their circle of friends and social media posts and everything else that tells them that everyone else is on the same page as you. Part of that is we tend in society today to put ourselves in echo chambers. We don't want anybody that disagrees with us or to have discussions on things anymore. We just want to censor them. But number two, it's because you have a lot of foreign countries that are involved in massive propaganda scams to make people do things or think things that actually aren't happening. So Brexit would be a good one for you to probably look into. Firms like Cambridge Analytica worked with Leave affiliated groups, harvested data from millions of Facebook profiles. They built psychographic profiles to identify voters who were neurotic, fearful, or traditionalists. In the days leading up to the vote, 13,000 bot accounts were found tweeting pro-Brexit slogans. It was a massive scam campaign. Whether you believe in it or not, or is the right thing or not, that's not for us to decide or talk about, especially in the US. It's just the fact that there was a lot of propaganda that was pushed behind that. And a lot of studies and even documentaries have been released about this subject. So I think to kind of wrap this up, I would say that everybody's susceptible. And no matter how smart you think you are, no matter how much you think you're in the know, no matter how many people online you think support you, we are all, and I especially include myself in this, susceptible to manipulation. I think the scariest thing is for people who think that all the stuff going on from these foreign governments or even your own government and all the propaganda being spread and all the social media posts and all of this stuff won't impact you because you're too smart. You're too smart to be impacted by that. And there's no such thing. There's nobody who's not been impacted by all of this propaganda that's been spread by everybody. Everyone is guilty in Ryan's book. I think that this is probably one of the most difficult conversations to have, and I hesitated heavily even going into this because it leads people into a lot of detailed political discussions, which I don't want to have. I'm focused here on the privacy and security conversation only. I don't care about your individual politics. I don't want to hear about them. I really, because that's something to have in-person conversation with, not over the internet. So that's why I try to avoid that stuff. But it's very difficult because when you look at things like I go on social media sometimes, X would be a perfect example, and I'm offended at things that I see there. And it's very hard to offend me. And then I ask myself, is it better that I can see that that person is that way and thus avoid them? Or would it be better that we just banned them and then they ran off into some other site where they're only around other people who believe the same things they do, therefore stuck in an echo chamber and only reinforce their own stupidity? Or is it better that they're out here in the public where somebody could potentially reach out to them if they want to and attempt to, or they have the opportunity to see other people's opinions or other people's thoughts? It's really difficult because if your answer is to always moderate, then who watches the watchmen? Who decides what gets moderated and what doesn't? Who decides what's fake news and what's not? And even if the person you pick initially is who you want, they may not be that person that you want tomorrow. And it's a conversation that frankly could span 100 episodes. And I still don't think we would have an answer. But I just want to say that I think that I specifically asked for people in the EU to write us, to tell us about the narrative and information. And, you did that. And I appreciate your email very, very much. And that's why I put that caveat on there, because I am very well aware of how much false news is out there. And so, there are a lot of articles that I will have posted here from TUDA, from the Law University of Chicago, from the EFF discussing different things, like DSA is another thing that's coming up that you may want to research about censorship in the EU. But you caused me to go do more research. And I would say that I'm more inclined than ever to say I'm very worried about EU, because they were a privacy staple in the world, to say this is where the best privacy laws are. And I would say it's very much under attack right now. And that scares me, because if EU doesn't have the best privacy laws and they go the way of the US, then who do we have left? Where can we put our servers next? There's nowhere that I know of left. And that is even more scary. But even with the great privacy laws you have to understand the power of a government, and that they're going to do what they need to do, what they want to do. And that's why I suggest you research things like Five Eyes. I don't know. That's it. That's my soapbox moment. I'm sure I'll get lots more hate mail for it. Matt, what are your thoughts on all of this?
So I'm kind of in the same boat you are, Ryan. Obviously I kind of watch what's going on with the privacy laws and a lot of that stuff. To your point about things like Proton and that stuff, we've seen some of that degrade over even like Proton's marketing, on how they do certain things. We've seen other issues across the board. So I'm more concerned, like you, as it relates to where we go from here, where we see some of these changes coming down the line. I'm glad to see certain states like Texas, like California, trying to actually enact certain privacy things, at least at the state level. I mean, even that is a improvement here in the States anyway, that is sorely needed. But I think, like you said, it's kind of hard for us to fully comment on kind of the EU situation because we're not in it. It's kind of like the EU people commenting on stuff over here. We have news to an extent, but until you really live it, see it day to day, in and out, it's really hard to translate that experience of what actually is or isn't going on. But I think really it does boil down to do your research, find the sources that you personally will trust. And that's, of course, totally personal interpretation and what you view as right, wrong, etc. That's for you to determine, not me or you or anybody else. But there is a very big push from what I've seen, because of like some of the stuff I'm into, like game preservation and a lot of the other stuff, that there's big pushes that rail against kind of the privacy aspects of what you would find there, and other aspects, and especially in the EU, which is concerning, because, we used to talk about like Germany being super great with like the data protection laws, Switzerland, but the more we see with like Five Eyes, that's 5 countries sharing data about all their citizens. That, it's usually, I believe it's Germany, France, Great Britain, and the US and Canada, I believe, is all 5 of them. That's kind of concerning. So I guess it depends on how much trust you put into the people that are in power. And that changes on a whim. So, like you said, just because one does it doesn't mean the next one's not going to use the same playbook.
Yeah. Or make it worse, right? They take the playbook from the prior one and they just keep pushing the limit. And that's like we talked last week about AI. And I was telling Sherrard, a lot of people are against AI because they believe it's a slippery slope. And I mentioned specifically in there, and they're right, because there are so many examples where things become a slippery slope. So they're like, I don't want it anywhere. I don't want to give nothing. I don't trust anything, because the moment you give them an inch, they take 3 miles. And I think that's the concerning part, and why this email is so interesting, that they were so disappointed, because, and it's very hard to have conversations about anything on a 1-hour show, because you can make a little quip like that, which is probably like 15 seconds of an hour show, if that. And somebody picked up on that and got very upset about that statement without any clarification, of course, given, because to me, Europe is one of the last holdouts for the privacy stuff. But when I see what I'm seeing in the news from companies that I trust, that I know actually go out there and fight these laws like the EFF and other things, which are not perfect themselves, but they do great work and they've done great work in the past. And I see educational institutions writing pieces about it and concerned about it. I become concerned as well, because without the EU's privacy laws, like I said, what is left? Where do we put our servers next? It's because we don't have any privacy here in the US. Very, very, very little, unless you happen to be in one of the two states. And even those privacy laws are pretty weak in comparison to what they have in the EU.
It's so sad to see the degradation of privacy just worldwide, whether it's from a country like Russia or China, who's trying to prevent their citizens from seeing the outside world, to unfortunately politicians who like to spin it. What we used to call framing, like in the 80s and 90s, that was referred to as framing. And it's heartbreaking, honestly. And yeah, I fully agree. The EU was always the one, we would look up to for privacy laws. And now it's under attack. And it's just really sad to see that.
Now, the people may rise up and none of the news stories that happen will end up meaning anything. And so I think, Sergio, again, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, your point about, hey, you have to go fight these things when you see it, 100%. And we're relying on you because we've had no play in it to do so. But you have to fight these things. And I saw something interesting today about Graphene OS. The French police have basically put out, and I did not do a ton of research in this. I just saw the post. So again, open to people's feedback who have the time to do the research, because I just saw it today. But essentially, I did see Graphene OS respond to it. So I believe there's some legitimacy to this, in that the French police essentially made some type of statement alluding to the fact that drug lords and basically the underground crime organizations all use Graphene OS, because they did a bust where people used Graphene OS. And the implications of that I saw people insinuating was, hey, maybe the encryption levels and things on the Graphene OS are too strong, because the governments need to be able to access that to stop these organizations. I don't believe it for a second, personally. Mm-hmm. I think that if we all knew what our governments were really doing, we would probably all be sick in our backyards. I think if they wanted to stop these things, they don't need access to everybody's phone in order to do so. How did they ever fight crime before phones? That's what I want to know. How did they ever fight crime before breaking encryption? Apparently it was impossible. But I remember this story not so long ago that our local government was trying to get Apple to put a backdoor into their phones to break encryption. And Apple refused. Apple got a lot of heat for this particular case, as I recall, because it involved children, of course, as I recall. Or maybe it was a terrorist thing, one or the other. But Apple refused to put the backdoor in. But I happen to know, and there are a lot of special people who worked in those fields who knew that they had physical access to the phone, and that if a government agency has physical access to your phone, they 100%, no matter what encryption you have, could break into it. Guaranteed. If they have physical access to your phone, there is no encryption you're going to put on it that's going to keep the government out. The tools that were out there, I talked about one from Israel not so long ago that can just send a text message and do such, were available to do that. And I believe that crazy John McAfee was like, if you guys want, just give me the phone. I'll show you how to break into it, or something like that. He was still alive during that time. But even he knew they had access to break this stuff. We're sold a bill of goods, and we do it because we want to feel safe. I fear that this generation coming up won't even know what privacy feels like, because they'll have none of it. They won't even know what they're missing, because they'll never have had it. And it's our responsibility as adults to really sit there and, as Sergio perfectly mentioned, go at our governments and demand this stuff stop, and demand that there are laws that protect us. But As far as censorship stuff goes, I don't know the answer, Sergio, to that particular problem. As I mentioned before, it's one that I beat my head against constantly. Is the answer more free speech? Is it less free speech? I don't know. Maybe one of you know. You could write in and let us know at destinationlinux.net/comments or destinationlinux.net/forum, where apparently you can only write nasty emails to me and never to Jill and Matt. I don't know why. Why is it always me, Jill?
I don't know. Sometimes, well, in the past, sometimes it was Michael too.
Yeah, very rarely. It's always mostly rarely. Me.
It's usually Ryan.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about me. Matt, somebody can write in and tell me what it is about me that everyone just wants to. Like, Jill will say the same things I do.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, none of you will write an email talking about Jill. It'll always be, oh, I'm so disappointed in Ryan. Like, even if Jill says it, they'll write, I'm so disappointed in Ryan.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know,
and Ryan, it's just simply because it's you. There's no other reason.
It's my face. It's got to be my face. I don't know. Maybe I need to turn my camera off and then people will stop hating me so much. I don't know. Whatever. I don't care. I ain't scared. On another note, speaking of security, a company that we trust very much on this network, we've had the CEO on here, is Sandfly. And as Linux users, listen, this is a big deal for us. Privacy and security is a big deal for Linux users. It's why a lot of us go to Linux in the first place. Security is non-negotiable. But with threats getting smarter, your security tools need to keep pace without dragging your system down. Traditional agents, they can slow your system down and they can leave blind spots as well. So it's time for a better approach. And that's why Destination Linux is proud to be sponsored by Sandfly Security. Revolutionary agentless platform designed for Linux. Go to destinationlinux.net/Sandfly and see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy. By the way, the CEO, Jill, just released a video on installing Sandfly, the first steps, which is wonderful. So great.
Yeah.
So good. So we'll have that linked as well. They have a business free trial going on right now. So that's something you want to jump on. Small business, medium business, large business. They have massive clients over there at Sandfly. Small clients, big clients, independent clients, all kinds there. Go check them out. Timothy Lisko of DigitalOcean, another one of our former sponsors, said Sandfly is one of the most exciting pieces of security tech they've seen recently. They're excited to not only be a customer, but also offer integrated solution to our customers through the DigitalOcean marketplace. And that's what Craig set up, was through the DigitalOcean marketplace. Made it super simple, like really, really simple. And they go on to say this technology addresses Linux security in a really novel and compelling way. Sandfly doesn't just detect and respond. It revolutionizes security with SSH key tracking, password auditing, drift detection, covering threats from all angles, whether your systems are on cloud, on-premise, and embedded devices. Sandfly ensures they're all secure without the headaches of agent-based solutions. Experience security is not just effective, it gives you peace of mind. No agents, no downtime, just cutting-edge protection.
The home edition of Sandfly Security is now available, and it's awesome. And to all our listeners of Destination Linux, they have an incredible offer for you of 50% off if you use the discount code Destination50. Dive into the future of Linux security at destinationlinux.net/Sandfly. That's destinationlinux.net/SANDFLY and see how Sandfly can transform your security strategy. And make sure to check out our episode from 2 weeks ago with Craig Rowland from Sandfly Security. It was amazing. It was a really good episode.
Did you guys see, by the way, speaking of security and configurations and all that, Cloudflare had a massive outage?
Yes, they did. I know people had problems because of it. Yeah.
So apparently it was from a configuration error that somebody made. And I really want to know if it was AI. Like,
probably was.
Just, obviously, we don't know. I doubt they'll ever mention, but I just want to know, like, all of these outages, is this because everybody's moving to AI and it's just like there's no, because it seems odd, right? That there's just so many out. Either we're all under attack and we don't know it because nobody's talking, or something else is happening. I don't know. Write us and let us know. But let's go on to a little happier topic. Matt, you brought us a super secret topic, your own pick. What did you pick this week?
So anybody who has listen to Linux Out Loud. I mean, granted, it's been a few weeks since I've been on, but anybody who knows me, I'm a big proponent of game preservation. I am a big proponent of it. I think when games aren't preserved as the art that the industry, specifically the gaming industry itself, claims that they are, which is something I've always banged my head against the wall at, because they are terrible at preservation of it. 13% of any games playable before 2000. That's the preservation rate. 13%.
Horrible.
That is for art, for what they claim is art. That is pathetic as an industry. That is pathetic. Yeah. I'm sorry. I will be blunt. That is pathetic. So what we have found is, companies like GOG, who I'm a big proponent of because they are DRM free. They are working on bringing classic games kind of up to modern system compatibility and that kind of stuff, regardless of the platform that they might underlie on. Just the fact that they are making them available and DRM free is something that I think I really, really get behind. One of the examples was they brought back Alpha Protocol, which is like a espionage RPG James Bond kind of game.
Cool.
It was lost to the annals of history. They paid to get it relicensed, redone, like everything, so you could get it playable. Super cool. Super slow process though. These guys, like the developers and the publishers and the licensing deals and the agreements, and there's a lot of, Jill, you've been in this end of the industry and you know what I talk about. Mm-hmm. When I say the licensing deals to make a video game are super complicated, super annoying, and vast. Everything from art to music to voice acting to likenesses to whatever. So there is a person who is essentially archiving games that are no longer listed by publishers, developers, whatever, be it for licensing deals or anything being gone. This to me, now this could be a gray area for a lot of people. This to me is what the industry of itself should be doing.
Yeah.
And they do not. So if you go to the Internet Archive, there'll be a link. I will let you guys determine that. I won't discuss where it goes. There is currently, this person has made games extractable and playable on modern systems for over 120 delisted or unavailable games for the PC. They are extract and play. That is
now, in the early discussions that we had about this, Matt, I was looking at some of these games and I was like, wait a minute, Halo's still in distribution and Assassin's Creed's still in distribution and Gears of War is still in distribution, but you were explaining to me something I didn't understand. So I feel you should share that with the audience.
So if you look at the list of games, you'll see a Gears of War, you'll see a Halo Combat Evolved. The Gears of War is the original PC release. The Halo is the original PC release. So these are older games that have just been poof, lost, gone. They're not sellable unless they're a remake, remaster, revamp, blah, blah, blah. A remake of art. It's mind-boggling weird to me that that's cool to do, but whatever. And not preserve it. So what he is doing is making these games available. The newest one that he just recently put out, I think it was today or yesterday, Assassin's Creed 3, with all the original release of Assassin's Creed 3 is available without the I think 2020-ish remaster. So
HD
if you want
remaster,
the original, so if you want the original release game and whatnot, it is playable and made available for preservation. And there's obviously legalities and stuff, but like I think the concept of what this guy's doing, because these are community fixes and everything else to make these playable on modern systems.
I'm surprised that this person's page is even still up, because I know how these companies are with their games. Even when they don't preserve them themselves, to your point, they let this art go, they remaster them and then get rid of the originals, or they fall into some basement somewhere, nobody knows where they're at. But these companies are very aggressive with their licensing. So I'm surprised it exists. I'm happy it exists. I think from a legal standpoint, the question comes, should you own this game before you would go down here? And I like that it's preserved, but I'm on the fence about, is it okay that anybody can go down here and just download this with no proof at all that they've ever owned the game or personally have a copy of it? And because it does take money away from the artists. Some of these artists that created some of these games are still around today. And, when they do a remaster, probably not in game studios, but maybe it happens with some of your top game designers. They may get royalty checks from some of this stuff and things like that. I don't know, man. I like it. I want all this preserved, and it's on this archive.org, which has done incredible preservation on books and all kinds of things, from that are out there that they're preserving, which I think is even just as important. But there's some legalities here that are just very confusing to me. I mean, Rowan Carr, who does this, hats off. You're brave. You're very, very brave. I'll go there because these companies are ruthless. But 916 billion web pages are archived, 49 million books and text, 13 million audio recordings, 10 million videos, 5 million images, 1 million software programs that would have been gone from history without sites and people doing this kind of work. And it's a lot of work, by the way, to take these games and make them work on modern hardware. You have to know what you're doing in a big way because you're dealing with other people's code. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, you're reverse engineering everything. You got to be good.
Well, I know archive.org is also archiving the Flash games because there's a really good online Flash players.
There were some really good ones back in the day.
Yeah. And so it's been wonderful to be able to play those on archive.org. I go there a lot to download and play those. But the licensing, I am a little worried about that. I know, for instance, and Matt knows, with software like Lutris, that requires that you have the original CD to install those vintage games and the keys. So that he stays above board on, of course, all the legality.
Which is a really smart way of doing it because, technically you can go out there on eBay and probably buy some original copies of these. Some of them may be impossible to find.
Yeah.
Some of them maybe not. But I don't know. I mean, some of these games, I know I played, they're not that old, the originals. So, well, I guess I am that old. Never mind. They are that old. But the point is that they're within my generation and I ain't dead yet. Maybe a year from now. It's I don't know, man. What do you think, Matt? Are you 100% behind this, or do you think there's some legality concerns you have?
So take out the legality. I'm of two minds. Take out the legality stuff, and I am 100% behind the initiative of it.
Yeah,
that because for an industry that claims art, you suck at providing and preserving the things you create. You are terrible at it. I'm just going to be blunt again.
Yeah.
So I know there's various sites like the Game History Museum game. There's is it HitSave? I believe is another one. There are organizations out there that literally that is their whole reason for being is to preserve games, and I applaud them. But the industry, and I think this is a kind of a kick in the pants to the industry to get better at it. And it's not possible. Oh, it's not possible. Okay, then tell me how come Vampire the Masquerade, which is still sellable, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, the OG one, not whatever thing it came out recently. The OG one had a bunch of community fixes, and now as a sold product, on GOG specifically, comes with the community patch to fix it all.
Yeah.
So you can't tell me that, and this is after the studio is no longer around. So,
it's about preservation, and it's about how long should companies be able to keep a license. What's the last thing that came into general IP that everyone was aware of? Was what, the original Mickey Mouse cartoon or something?
Yeah.
You know, so
now.
I don't know. Some of these IPs
you're getting
are
into
just
IP
too long.
law. Yeah, you're getting into IP law, which is super complicated and annoying. But like one of the games that recently he just put back out. One of my favorite space sims is Starlancer from the guy. So Starlancer was originally developed by it was Orion. I'm trying to remember the original company that developed it. I don't, but it was a Microsoft Game Studios game for PC. But one of the original devs is Chris Roberts. Who's Chris Roberts work on? Oh, he's working on Star Citizen. He's the guy behind Star Citizen. So, like this is also the same company that did Freelancer and like all these other cool games that nobody like. These are lost. Like you can't buy Starlancer. Like I have it still physically on disc because it's the only way I can get it. That is pathetic.
Right.
But if you're talking legalities, yes, there are a lot of legal areas that this touches that could cause some issues. But I think the idea behind it is better than what currently happens within the industry. I think the pro far outweighs the con on this. And
interesting.
So that's kind of my take on it.
We have a lot of people probably have different opinions on this, varying. I want to hear them. So you can go to destinationlinux.net/comments and send them in. But ultimately, I'm on Team Matt here. I feel like the preservation is the most important part. Thank goodness it's not Nintendo games, because they would instantly be taken down and sued into oblivion. They're computer games, so there may be some hope that this can stay up. But you have to decide your own moral obligations with that stuff. I think that if you can try to buy a copy of it and then you download it, perfectly fine. Like an old copy on eBay, those type of things. If you're just going to download it and you never owned it, never played it, probably something that you have to deal with in your own conscience. In any case, downloading random files from the internet can give you viruses, Matt. So that's one of the things. I mean, this is a well-known site, but a lot of times people go to pirate sites to get software. And that can lend you to getting viruses. Well, Kaspersky has the answer, because they've released their first consumer home user antivirus for Linux desktops. That's right. Kaspersky, a full-blown antivirus platform for Linux desktops under their Kaspersky Premium Plus and Standard plan. So if you go to their site right now, you'll see under all their plan choices, it says Windows, Mac, and Linux there, which is
sweet.
It's cool no matter what. Like, no matter what you think of Kaspersky, I'm just cool. It's cool that we have, somebody who Linux has gotten big enough that they feel like, hey, we want to release our product on Linux. So Linux, they're saying, has, according to Kaspersky, that the threats of Linux have increased over the years, which I think is probably undeniable, obviously, as it's gained popularity, and it's a very, very big target. Speaking of which, I released a video recently on ClamAV and how to set up a daily scan using it, and that's free and doesn't require a subscription. So you may want to check that video out on the DOS Geek channel. But they're saying it offers real-time antivirus and internet protection, scans and blocks infected files, folders, applications, Trojans, cryptolockers, and ransomware, online payment protection, anti-phishing protection, activity monitoring, removable drive scanning, basically all the features if you're on Windows and you're using ESET or Kaspersky or any of those that you would expect from a virus scanner. They've got it all working on Linux theoretically here. Looks like, they're officially supporting Ubuntu and Red Hat and some other major distributions that use Deb or RPM packaging. Not a lot of, obviously, system specs required to run this. They have their standard pricing plans, but if you're on Windows and you have an antivirus, do never pay full price. Like, they're always running specials on this stuff, Kaspersky as well, for them. But if you're in the US and you're like, hey, I want to try this, you can't, because Kaspersky is literally banned here in the United States.
Yeah.
So the thought is that it has Kaspersky is a Russian government aligned entity, allegedly. From what I've read, this is not Ryan's opinion. Let's be very clear before you send in more emails how disappointed you are. And as a result, our government said, hey, nobody's allowed to have this software. So they have enough proof, although I've not seen it personally, that they feel like Kaspersky is a risk. And so if you're in the US, you're not going to be able to use it, as I understand it. But if you're in another country, you may want to research Kaspersky and kind of understand and make your own decision of whether they are a trustworthy entity or not. I will say, in all of the trusted antivirus rankings of like top antivirus tools, Kaspersky is usually always in the top 5, at least, if not the top, at least in the top 2 of antivirus solutions out there. Now, some speculate that they may be involved, or not just Kaspersky. This isn't about Kaspersky, but certain antivirus companies could be involved in creating some of these packages or having deals with people who create some of these malware packages, and therefore that's how they get the signatures early or whatever. You can go into conspiracy theory with anything these days, you know?
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. The most interesting part, I think, is getting an antivirus in there for Linux and then asking ourselves, is an antivirus really needed? And in my ClamAV video, I actually go into, do you need an antivirus with Linux? And just a quick TLDR of the video, for most people, no, I don't think you do. But if you mess with a lot of Windows machines and things, and you download a lot of files, the answer may be yes. You know, switch to yes. I don't know that this is the one I would choose, but it's interesting nonetheless. What do you think, Jill?
Yeah. So, you know, in fact, when I was teaching on the Windows machine, Kaspersky was the top software used for antivirus.
I used it many times.
Yeah, it had been McAfee, and then they switched to Kaspersky, and it was excellent. It was excellent, and I actually think it's wonderful that all the tools that run normally in the Windows, taskbar, run as a daemon on Linux. That's great. So it has real time.
Yeah.
And that's something we don't have a lot of here on Linux. We do have some, but it's nice to have another package that runs in real time, especially when you're dealing with, a combination of Windows and Linux servers and everything. You don't want those Windows files copying to Linux just to be launched on Windows on another machine, so it's really, it is really needed. It is really needed because we used to have some other professional antiviral software on Linux, and most of those have been deprecated. So it's nice to have a new player, and they made excellent software. So I was all for this.
Yeah, they made excellent software. The allegations against them, I was just looking, these are allegations, to be very clear, is that they collaborated on secret projects with Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB, including developing customized cybersecurity tools for Russian law enforcement. Russian hackers, again, another one is that they facilitated the theft of NSA data from a NSA contractor's home. And that they were utilizing some of their deep system access for espionage, and that they basically have ties to KGB and other things are the allegations that have been made. Again, the U.S. has not, I think, substantiated those in any way that I've seen, but those are the allegations. So I would be very leery of this. If you're going to spend money, get Sandfly. Or if you want a real-time agent, use ClamAV for now. Don't download random stuff online. Don't click links in your email, and you'll probably be fine. So you don't need any of this stuff. That's just my thought. But I think it's cool we have enough attention to get Kaspersky. Wouldn't personally be the antivirus that I would trust just because there's too many allegations, and I don't know what I don't know. What do you think, Matt?
I've been more of a... When it comes to AV, it's more bad experiences early on breed, oh, McAfee's bad. Oh, Norton's bad. Oh, so experience teaches just don't do bad things or dumb things, and you'll be fine. So generally, I try to keep that motif. I think having an option like that is cool. Like Joe was kind of pointing out, like it's cool seeing kind of a bigger player kind of poke at the Linux desktop. Because I know was it ESET used to do like one, and then it got deprecated a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, kind of like you, Ryan, I'm just clam AV it, and you'll be good for basically and that's generally if you're interacting with Windows systems as generally anyway. If you're generally just a home user, but for me, I'm not going to say I run AV on Linux. Windows, well, that's a different situation.
Different beast altogether.
But on Linux, I personally, it'd be clam AV if needed, and then generally just don't have bad browsing habits. That's
that can help.
Eliminate
that could be a big part of it.
Yeah,
you eliminate 90% of the problem. So,
yep, 100%. Jill.
Yeah. So one of my use cases for like a clam AV is to scan Windows partitions, usually when I'm helping the family,
Most of the virus signatures that clam AV has stored are Windows viruses.
Yeah, you can scan those .exes and those .zips and all the things.
Yep, absolutely. Well, Jill, we all this is a spicy episode. Lots of very espionage, I don't know. I think we should all have hoodies on for this and make Craig from Sandfly cringe, but for this episode. But you brought something a little happier as usual because you're Jill. So what do you got for us?
So after the excitement of Valve's launch of the Steam machine last Wednesday that we talked about here on Destination Linux, woohoo, and the Steam frame and the controller, there's even more exciting news about gaming on Linux. So ProtonDB.com, it's a community-driven website that tracks the compatibility of Windows games with Proton, which is a tool that allows games to run on Linux and the Steam Deck. And it provides a rating scale from Platinum, which works perfectly, to Borked, which doesn't work, based on user reports, and includes, comments with details on tweaks needed to get a game running. ProtonDB is really a valuable resource for finding out if a game will run well on Linux before buying or playing it. And me personally, I'm constantly checking it for game compatibility.
Same.
And I know Ryan and Matt do.
I love it. It's such a well done website. It works on mobile. It works on desktop perfectly. I can search the game. I can see people's comments. The community's awesome there because people will tell you, hey, you got to change this setting and it works perfect. And they tell you what hardware the person was running. So, hey, that was a person with NVIDIA. Let me find someone with AMD and see what their experience was. Everything they've done on that site is genius. Brilliant. Yeah. I love its face.
It's amazing. And I've submitted a lot of my own user reports.
Yep.
And so data from ProtonDB.com shows a steady and continuous improvement in the percentage of Windows games that run on Linux via Valve's awesome compatibility layer, Proton. And for those of us Linux users who game on Linux know that this is a trend and that gaming on Linux is now a first-class citizen. Woohoo! Thanks to Valve, Codeweavers, and other developers in the Linux community who work on Proton and the Steam Deck. And it has been so wonderful, and I know both of you are going to agree with me, to just hit the play button on Steam for any title, whether Windows only or otherwise, and it launches without any tweaks necessary. It's just been these last few years have been incredible. So the number of games that refuse to launch, which have a borked rating on ProtonDB, is at an all-time low, nearing 10%. That's 10%. Wow. So, woohoo! Then this means that close to 90%, yes, 90% of Windows games have a near perfect launch on Linux.
That's amazing. What an experience,
It really is. I mean, I'm buying games much more frequently now because again, 99% of the time it'll run. So it's not an issue, or I can tweak it to run. But most of the time, 99.9%, you hit play, it plays.
Yep.
So what's interesting is the combined area from the ProtonDB ratings, which are represented on a graph chart for the platinum rating, which means runs perfectly out of the box, and the gold rating, which means works almost out of the box with some tweaking. Their ratings remain consistently high. And a large portion of Windows games can run smoothly without minimal setup, like we've been talking about. Also, this is awesome. The games that don't run often fail because, I'm sorry, this is not awesome. Also, the games that don't run often fail because of reliance on anti-cheat technology that doesn't support Linux, or in rare cases, explicit developer intervention to block wine in Proton.
How about the anti-cheats don't work?
Yeah.
All I see in like social media and stuff is people showing these clips of Battlefield and what's the other one? Battle of 6 something. What is it? Battle Order 6, BO6. What's the other one? Call of Duty, Modern Warfare.
Modern Warfare.
Yeah, whatever it is. 6. The latest ones is all these people cheating, and you can tell they're cheating. They're like instantly snapping and shooting people behind walls, and they've got all this anti-cheat crap running on your system where they have access to everything root level in your system, and they still can't stop it. So why are we doing it? It's the rootkit stuff has been worthless. Community reported cheaters and ban them for life, and then the gaming community should get together and ban these people across all gaming platforms. So like if you get proven that you were cheating in Steam, and I'm not saying these stupid ones where it's kind of like, well, they might be, so we're gonna go ahead and ban them. I mean, if it's proven you've been cheated, you get banned not only on your network that you're on, Steam, whatever it is, but every other game network in a consortium as well. You can't log into Ubisoft, you can't log into EA, you can't log into any of them, and teach these stupid people a lesson. That's my suggestion.
And the anti-cheat, what's annoying about it, it could be platform specific. That anti-cheat may run just fine on Linux, but they've disabled it, so it only runs on Windows.
Yeah, because they don't want people to find out what they're really doing with that data.
Yeah.
Destiny 2.
And it's been and it's been annoying, and Matt knows about this too, is that with the Steam Deck, I have several games I like to play that will only play on the Steam Deck because they're locked to the hardware. It's just so annoying.
Interesting.
It is. Yeah. But it's very much a minority.
Which one was the...
Infinity Nikki.
That's what it was. Infinity Nikki and was it Mecha Break? Mecha Break was the other one.
Yeah, Mecha Break.
That would only play.
Only
play on the Steam Deck, but it wouldn't play on Linux desktop.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
And I love playing Infinity Nikki, so I've been playing it on my Steam Deck. So
I've never heard of this game. I'm gonna have to go check this out. But very cool, Jill. So at the end of the day, go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
I was going to say Infinity Nikki is done by the developers who did Stellar Blade.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Nice.
It's really well done. And I'm into the anime exploration, role-playing games, Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact.
Nier Automata?
Yeah, Nier Automata,
Yes.
I love.
Yes. Such a good game. That was a really fun one. I think I played that on my channel somewhat, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cool thing is because Valve is actively working directly with developers and publishers to ensure new games run on as expected on day one of release, contributes hugely to almost 90% of Windows games having a near perfect launch on Linux. And beyond compatibility, games running on Linux tend to show, on average, better performance on the same hardware compared to Windows, especially with AMD GPUs and processors.
Very nice.
Yeah,
well, Jill, very awesome story. Happy to hear that Linux is getting that kind of support, but we're almost out of time, and Matt is being very gracious with us with his time today and has to go to work right after this, which I appreciate again, Matt, you being here. So Jill, what's our software pick this week?
So our software pick this week is a handy application called Rclone. Rclone, which is often referred to as RSync for cloud storage, it's a command line program to sync files and directories to and from different cloud storage providers. And some of the storage providers are Amazon S3, Akamai, Alibaba Cloud, Box,
it's like all
Ceph,
of them.
Cloudflare, all of them basically. DigitalOcean,
Mega,
DreamHost,
Google Drive,
Dropbox.
it's all there.
Yeah, it's all there. And some of the cool features of Rclone are you can sync to and from a network, for example, from 2 different cloud accounts, and you can have with or without encryption.
Nice.
Which is awesome. They give you choice. There is a copy mode to just copy new and changed files, and a sync mode to make a directory identical, as well as bisync mode to keep 2 directories in sync bidirectionally. And there's a check mode to check for file hash equality, and it uses multi-threaded downloads to local disk. So it is much faster downloading.
Nice.
So Rclone is available for Linux, macOS, Windows, and FreeBSD, and can be downloaded using a script or found in your Linux distributions repository.
Yeah,
so
super
go grab
cool.
that one.
Wish I would have already had this back in the days before Linux and stuff, when I was moving off of like Google Drive, because oh my gosh, what a pain.
Slow.
Matt and I were talking about that before the show, and he guessed which one I was cringing about. He's like, Google Drive? Like, yes. Oh my gosh, leaving Google Drive was a disaster.
Yeah.
So,
get your 10 4-gig files.
Yeah. I mean, the limits on them and just how they have it set up, like sending them data is really easy. Getting your data back out, not so much. Not so simple. And then getting that back to a different cloud storage provider, even more painful. So this is a super cool tool. Check it out. Rclone is awesome. And that's our show. A big thank you to each and every one of you for supporting by watching or listening to Destination Linux. However you do it, we love your faces. Even those of you that send emails to me saying how disappointed in me you are. Join us in our Discord by going to tuxdigital.com/Discord. And if you want to show more love to the show, go to tuxdigital.com/membership or /store and become a patron, where you can watch live episodes of the show, unedited episodes, and get merch discounts as well.
And make sure to check out all the cool shows here on Tux Digital. That's right, we have an entire network of shows to fill your whole week with geeky goodness. Head to tuxdigital.com to keep those Linux penguins marching, and make sure to watch Matt on Linux Out Loud, and watch Ryan's Darkenstein 3D game streams live on Sunday mornings or afternoons on his DOS Geek YouTube channel, or the VODs later, and the other awesome videos he has released recently on his channel, like the Clam AV on Linux one.
Nice.
Awesome.
Thank you, Jill. I appreciate it. After all the hate I get. By the way, we won't be here next week, everyone.
Yeah.
So if you didn't make it to this point, you don't know that, but this is our final episode until after Thanksgiving. And then we'll be back with some more episodes there. But the holidays are coming. If you didn't know, gobble, gobble.
Yeah.
Hope you have a fantastic Thanksgiving. Spend some time with your family. Do something fun. You deserve it. You work hard. And Matt, we have to give you the honors of our sign off for the show, sir.
Everybody, have a great week. And remember that the journey itself is just as important as the destination.
Thank you, everyone. Woo-hoo! Thank you, Matt, for joining on an especially spicy episode. It just worked out that way. I didn't plan it. I promise you, just because I knew I felt protected with Matt here, Jill. So I just was gonna just go off, because Matt will get them in the comments. You said something nasty to me in the comments, I'm gonna send Matt after you, just so y'all know.
There we go.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with me. I've got a Matt. So the Marvel universe has a Hulk. I have a Matt. Just so you all know. Don't make me use them. All right, next time.